Welcome back. We're continuing our conversations with candidates for the Peoria at-large city council seat. Today, Aaron Chess, who has put his name into the race, first-timer as well. Also college student as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'm really curious about what led you to getting into this political race, particularly being a student and being so young. What do you believe you can bring to the table?
I believe I can bring the energy and excitement that our city council fails to have, and plus bridging the gap between the young generation and local politics. Because as you may know, if you ask a young person what they know about politics, most of the time they're going to say, I don't really care for it. And so just giving them that inspiration and that enthusiasm to, be passionate about politics, because if we don't get active in it, then we're going to be put in situations like our city is facing now with a failing budget, lack of jobs, and or fortunately for the African American community, being ranked consecutive number of years as the worst place for African Americans. And so always been passionate ever since I was a little boy, been inspired by President Barack Obama. You
mentioned about Peoria, that 24/7 Wall Street study is what you're referencing, being one of the worst places for African Americans. A study was done recently by Governing Magazine that said that schools amongst white and black students within the Peoria area, greater Peoria area, were the most segregated within the country. You're from here, you grew up here, grew up on the south side of Peoria. What would you suggest be done to continue to move Peoria in a path that can get out of any of those distinctions?
Well, first and foremost, we have to sit down as community leaders and the community as a whole and discuss how did we get here, how can we get out of this situation and not turn back, how can we move forward. And so something, especially with the schools, I've heard from different parents and students from talking to kids at Manual and on the south side, is that they feel as if they don't have a personal connection with their teachers. And most of the students at the schools in the south side or East Bluff, they come from broken homes, single parent homes, or living with their grandparents. So they don't really have that passion or that enthusiasm to want to go to school. That's just a place that they want to go. So I feel like if we can make that an environment for them to feel, welcome and that they belong there, especially at the schools down in those areas, that that'll make their day. I personally experienced it with my time down at Treewind and at Manual Academy, and I've seen kids being disrupting other students from learning, and it was just basically because of where they come from back home, like their living environment. So really want to help provide the right resources to combat that and make sure every student knows that we care for you. We don't just want you here. The teachers do not just want you here for a paycheck, but to actually care for you and help you learn and be successful.
I've heard from a lot of people just in my outside of work dealings within the city of Peoria, a lot of young people, that there isn't a lot for them to do. I'm mainly talking about young adults and trying to bring in more young adults and getting their mind and their voices out there. What's your take on that for the city of Peoria right now, for young adults, someone who is a college student and about to graduate out of college, but you're still within that young adult spectrum? Where do you see the state of Peoria for young people and bringing in that young drive of young professionals and having their ideas and things for them within the city? Where do you see that it is right now?
It all goes back into the leadership that we have. As I said, we don't have anyone that can actually relate to the younger generation. And so with me being on the council, I can propose ideas and solutions to handle these problems to keep our youth around. I know round one was supposed to be the place for our kids to go and have fun, but unfortunately with the events leading up to the opening week with the fights and things, that kids stopped going. And so I've been talking to friends, family members that are around my age, and they want to see more of a nightlife, especially for the young men and women that are 21 years old or 18, somewhere that they can go just like in Chicago or like a college town. Especially for the students at Bradley. I know they're paying a highest amount of tuition and they want to, be able to go somewhere that they can have fun, not just drink. Probably like a mini golf place or go-karts or some indoor amusement park, like in Chicago or Iowa.
Okay. And I know there are a few places downtown, but and certainly I've heard that as well from other people too. Can I ask you about crime within the city?
Yeah.
I know that this takes on a personal, account for you within your life. Where do you see things changing for the city of Peoria? Last year was obviously a very violent city in terms of homicides within the city of Peoria. The years before that, those two combined got us to last year, as far as the numerically. Last year was more than the 2 years before that combined. We're to a fast pace already this year. Where do you see the city right now when it comes to its crime and violence, and how can things change? How will you be able to help the council enact change within the city?
Yeah. So as you said, I do have a personal, this is personal to me. My sister was, unfortunately, her life was taken back in 2010. I did some research, and 2010 was the highest homicide rate with 23, and this year we're at 7. And it all goes back to opportunities for those young men and women that are committing the crimes. What can we do to provide the necessary opportunities such as jobs or et cetera, to help keep them off the streets and keep their minds productive. And that all goes back into what I want to do. Part of my #1 initiative is investing in our youth. So providing opportunities, providing ways for our young men and women who want to work, because I've spoken to a lot of kids that aren't 16, but who are willing to work, because back home in their households, they're dealing with poverty, and they want to put food on the table for their families. And so actually putting trades and vocationals back into the actual high schools, such as Manual, Richwoods, and Central. I know that we have it at Woodruff, but only a certain number of students can get into those programs. But if we can provide those necessary skills and training to those students that are not able to get selected to go to Woodruff, and who have no plans of going to college, that they have these skills to, look back on, like I have this, to be able to have that as their backup plan for when they're graduating high school.
We know a large part of addressing crime within communities is also the relationship between the community and police. There have been questions about where that stands, particularly amongst the black community as well, and the trust. Police are enacting body cameras as a way to get that trust to a higher level, so to speak, as well. Where do you see right now the community-police relations, and what are ways in which that can even become stronger here?
Yeah. So I had the honor of serving as a police explorer back in high school, and so I got that experience of what a police officer goes through their day-to-day. And I actually grew up in poverty on the South Side, and I understand, the frustration between the community. And so it's just it's no one that can really bridge that gap between the police department and the community. And with me on the council, having that experience with the police explorers and knowing like the things that go through their minds and the frustration with the community every time they see a police officer, they think they have to run or hurry up and get a defense mode because of the things they see on social media. And just coming together and uniting our community, and just telling the community and the police department that we have to come together if we want to succeed as a city. I know during my time with the police explorers, they did community service programs, but they didn't really have no one that they can reach out, a representative that they can reach out to the community, such as the South Side, those areas that have been stricken with the high crime. And so with my experience with that, I feel like I can bridge that, especially growing up and knowing a lot of young guys and young women that have unfortunately spent their life on the wrong track.
All right, so budgets. The last budget conversation to get out of a multi-million-dollar budget deficit, it was on the table that either raise fees or cut, in this case, police and fire. If you were presented with that same option, how would you approach that conversation? Raising fees, or would you consider cutting to police and fire?
Yeah, that's the question that I've been getting asked at every forum. And the thing that I say that we have to sit back, we have to all come to the table and discuss long-term ideas instead of short temporary ideas. And we have to decide if we raise the fees for our citizens, how is this going to affect? Is this going to continue to decline our population? And so I want to sit down with the leaders, have everyone at the table and discuss this matter, because I alone can't say that I want to raise it. I have to have the approval of the other members of the council, but personally for me, it's just communicating with everyone at the table to decide how is this going to affect our city. If it's going to affect our city in a bad way, then maybe we should look at other options.
So you'd be, so you said you would have to get them around to consider raising it. Would you be for potentially cutting police and fire?
That's something that I decided to run because that's the last thing I believe on the budget that we should cut. It all goes back into what our past city council members have done throughout the years on this issue. As I said, it's been too many short-term ideas instead of long-term. And so now it's coming back and biting us all.
All right, so a large part of budget issues have been businesses within the area. There have been businesses that have left, and then sales tax revenue dips down as well. Right now, the state lawmakers are pretty much one step closer as of yesterday to passing a $15 minimum wage. Where do you stand on that conversation? Do you think it is a good idea and it will help or hurt the local economy here in Central Illinois if a $15 minimum wage is enacted gradually at this point? But if that were to come into play, do you think it'd be good or bad for the area?
So with that issue, I'm still on the fence about. I've spoken with both Democratic lawmakers and Republican lawmakers, and the issue that concerns me, especially as a young black man coming from poverty, is that if we were to raise the minimum wage, then those employers are forced to let someone go because they can pay so much to the employees, and so most of the time you're going to get a new worker who's going to be someone that's coming out of poverty or coming back into society from the criminal justice system, and you have an employee that's already making, let's say, $14, and you want to raise it to $15. And so if you got the new guy starting off at the minimum wage, which is now $8.25, so that would leave that employer in a predicament. Should I let this guy who's been here for a long time with experience go, or should I let the guy that just came here with lack of experience go? And so when I hear these discussions, that is something that I think about, and it all goes back to my long-term ideas. How is this going to play out? But yeah, I'm still on the fence about it, and I want to just see what's best for the city, and I don't want to continue to see our city going in the wrong direction.
All right, last question that I have for you. You talked about your time growing up on the South Side, 1st District, and as an at-large city council person, I've asked everyone this question. You'd be charged to represent all 5 districts within the city of Peoria. What makes you the most qualified, in your opinion, to do that?
Yeah. What makes me the most qualified, because I had 21 years of age. You're really not going to find someone my age that's passionate about politics. Plus, it's been something I want to do since I was 10 years old. I have that passion, and I've been wanting to run for office since I was 10, and now given the opportunity, I always study, different legislations and laws that have been put in effect, and so this is something. This is a dream for me, and so just being able to run for office has really been a great thing. But what makes me stand out is that I actually can relate to the average person in Peoria. I grew up in poverty. I still reside on the South Side, and I know what's going on inside those communities that have been overlooked for so long, that our elected officials have failed to touch on. And the community is frustrated, and I'm representing their frustrations with me on the campaign trail, and I'm speaking on issues that no other candidate or incumbent has spoken on, such as the gun violence and the poverty in these areas. And so, yeah, being able to relate to the people.
All right. Well, Aaron Chess, running for at-large city council in Peoria. I appreciate you for stopping by today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Best of luck to you.
Thank